with our colleagues in Washington, on the Republican side, to come up with a commitment to them, similar to the contractors. But to be sure, it's to be driven by the people. If it's driven by Washington, then you might as well drive it off the coast into the Chesapeake Bay and let it sit there and rot at the bottom of the bay. Because that's where ideas end up unless they're generated by the people that I represent.
What has happened to American pride in manufacturing? Everything is going overseas today. How can we stop that?
Okay.
What, if anything, perhaps you're not on any committee or have any influence on it, what about this god-awful Chinese-American dollar exchange rate?
The two are related. Okay, it's good. It's good. Yes, sir.
I'm an engineer since '63 in battle tanks, airplanes, Caterpillar, all over the country. I'm an independent contractor. One of the things is when I go out to bid a job or get a contract, I have to go up against foreign-born H-1B visas. We're from, India, China, and I have to bid lower and not get the job. After all these years of experience, that makes me unhappy.
We have had a continuous battle going on with the Chinese. I served as the chair of the U.S. Chinese Interparliamentary Exchange for years, been in China 4 different times. Got into all kinds of wars with the Chinese over this fixed currency. And they need to make it float. Now,
manufacturing, DOD, berets, titanium, helicopters.
oh,
Here's dental floss, toothbrush made in China, and the Wounded Warrior Handbook is printed in Canada. This is it. This was given out.
What was it given out at?
University of Illinois Central Campus, April 24th, Illinois Warriors. This was distributed by the VA from Damon Avenue.
that's where this came from? I covered this.
Those items, this is the handbook that was one of the handouts.
No, was the handbook printed in Canada?
That one I took.
Okay, no, what was printed in Canada? This is probably printed domestically.
Okay. Back of this one says right there, printed in Canada, made in China. Toothbrush is made in China. This is what you're giving veterans.
But this
So my government tax dollars and yours are buying these items to give to veterans as they sit in a Veterans Administration hospital on U.S. soil.
and this is distributed to veterans to help them get a job.
Yes.
And this is printed in Canada. That's the type of crap that's going to stop. Let's go back to the Buy American laws. These were passed really after World War I and then after World War II for the purpose of protecting our industrial base. And even people who have written, Adam Smith, who wrote this great book on Wealth of Nations and in favor of free trade, they always make an exception that you can have a policy in your own country to protect what's absolutely necessary for your industrial base. And Buy American laws were passed, mostly applied to DOD, and then Department of Defense, and then they started getting watered down in the 60s when DOD put out a memo that said, well, essentially, if you're a NATO country, if an item is made in your country, it's the same as being made in America. So you could have the incredible result of an item complying with the Buy American laws, not having 1 cent in parts or labor from the United States. The bottom line here is, unless we comply with the spirit of the Buy American laws, we're not going to maintain our industrial base. We had a big fight several years ago on titanium. There are 3 titanium companies left in this country. And we found out that the DOD was buying its titanium, it's called sponge, from the Ukraine, and the 3 companies were barely hanging on. So I decided to have a hearing. We ended up with a giant meeting with everybody. It was the most extraordinary meeting in the world. We had the presidents of the 3 U.S. titanium factories there, the people from Pratt & Whitney, every major manufacturer that uses titanium in the defense industry. And the Undersecretary of the Air Force said, well, you know, we have to bring in this foreign titanium because Pratt & Whitney can't convert to U.S. titanium quickly enough. And the guy from Pratt & Whitney says, well, wait a second. He said, that's not what I told you. He said, we've already certified all 3 U.S. titanium manufacturers. And everybody's looking at each other. It became apparent what had happened. Everybody was there in good faith. Nobody was lying. But there were so many bureaucrats involved that nobody knew what was going on. And so what we did in that extraordinary meeting was to come up with a formula so they could bring in some of the foreign titanium and then have the mixture, but most of it would be U.S. titanium, certainly enough to save the titanium industry on it. But what had happened was people did not appreciate manufacturing.